Okay, so I'm Andrew Beatty, and I'm here with my wife Katie, and this is Charlie. And essentially, I guess what I'm trying to do is reflect on BYOB, which is Bring Your Own Book. Not much in life for me has had as much relevance lately as the news and the planning for Katie and I having our first child, which is due Saturday and could be here any moment and hopefully sooner than later for everyone's sake. So with that, it seemed to me that it made the most sense to focus on books that we're reading now.
Yeah.
So, Katie, if you want to share what books you've been digging into a little bit.
Well, I have the classic What to Expect When You're Expecting that someone gave me, so I didn't have to buy. So it's well worn and has tattered edges and things like that, but it's been useful. I haven't read like every page because I found that it was a little doomsday-ish. Like it told you everything that could go wrong and made some things a little scarier than others. Especially in the beginning, just because we have had a miscarriage before, so I really didn't read it in the beginning because I didn't want to know all the things that could go wrong. But it's been really useful, especially in the third trimester, just like those questions that you have or things like that. But it's definitely really just geared towards the mom. The other book I read, well, I didn't ever finish it because I read a lot of books for work because I'm a teacher, so I mostly did that. But this one is really popular right now, and Bringing Up Bebe, and this was about the parenting aspect of bringing up a child, and I really loved this book. It's about like how the French parent and how European styles, and it made a lot of sense to me. My mom is British, so that, like, I feel like that's how I was raised a lot of the time, was this kind of no-nonsense part of parenting.
So I should probably introduce the book that I've been focusing on. So this is The Expectant Father, Facts, Tips, and Advice for Dads-to-Be. This is the third edition by Broughton Ash. A lot of interesting material in this. The chapters go month by month, which I was fascinated to see once I got on schedule with the book. I was doing some reading ahead, and then I took some time off and then got back, and once I actually got on a regular schedule with it, learned it's frightening how much actually falls in line with that schedule in terms of the things you need to know and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's the thought process and the emotions and some of those things behind it. But looking at The Expectant Father, and then Bringing Up Bebe, which also says, subtitles, One American Mother Discovers Wisdom of French Parenting. So obviously a story told from the view of this mother, but essentially one of the earliest things that I learned about prepping for having a child is how much we'll see traditional gender roles in each thing that we do. Starting with the books. So Katie and I were just talking over the weekend about this Expectant Father book versus some of the books that she's been reading, and the things that I'm learning and the things that she's learning and the things that I'm not learning that she's learning, and vice versa. So we're telling a different story depending on the gender of the parent. And of course, when it comes to consumer goods, the number of things that we're seeing out there and how focused that is on gender specifics and that kind of thing. So I find that is very interesting. So the question then becomes, Andrew, what's the relevance? How do you draw connections between this book or these materials that we're engaging in and public administration? And the correlations that I first connect is just the idea of leadership. I consider myself a citizen in my own family as well as a leader, as I'm sure Katie does as well. Different areas of life that we each lead, and as the family grows and we add more citizens to the family, we'll see those leadership roles increase as well. Denhardt and Denhardt talk about leadership as a dance, and that is basically to describe that leadership is evolving, it's ever-changing, it requires some flexibility. And I think the first thing that I learned from that is the best laid plans can fail. And Katie alluded to early on the miscarriage. Even there's a lot of planning into the first time becoming pregnant and getting ready to have a child. We do a lot of things to just prepare for that, but still some things can take place that way. Some other pieces talked about, obviously, the gender role. But with the gender role, one thing that you're going to see in here is some of the specifics that are geared towards fathers. And I use in my reflection paper, I talk about birth partner a lot, which is language I choose to use, which is not really in this book, maybe other than the introductory section. So looking at the 4th month of chapter 4, money, money, money. The 6th month is work and family, so how to balance your professional life and that time at home. And then 8th month, making a list and checking it twice. So to me, very much about logistics, finances. We ask ourselves the questions of how to deal with insurance, be prepared for that. How to have conversations with family, whether it's telling them that you're pregnant or things that you wish, whether it's revealing things of the child, names, sex, any of those kinds of things. So all kind of interesting stuff to me that's directed completely towards the male. Well, and the other thing I notice when we start talking about things like budget, finances, and things to prepare for, I realize there's a direct correlation with public administration in that when we're budgeting for these things and you think of the populations that you're providing the service or the amenities for, we're making a lot of value statements with the choices that we make. Whether it's the type of equipment we purchase, once they get into early childhood education, preschool programs, daycare, any of these kinds of things, and we start paying attention to, okay, what's the budget and how do we spend money in each area, but what are we saying about the choice to spend money in that particular area as well? And we're also, I think, learning a lot with just consumer goods, this sense of safety and how they always kind of have you by the tail in terms of that sense of safety and always wanting to upgrade. If it says it's safe or we believe it could be safer, it's always easy to kind of get you there with that because we know that's a personal value, of course, obviously. And then same thing in public administration. You have liability and safety are always going to be first and foremost with any decision we make regarding projects or budgets or any of those kinds of things. So, and then with a larger scheme, when we look at a budget in public administration, it could be simple as looking at things like projects, where we're sending our general fund dollars. Are we funding road projects? Is it law enforcement, quality of life, health and wellness, any of those kinds of things? And it's interesting to me always to look at budgeting from a value statement standpoint, and I think we do that in parenting as well. But for me, in being a leader, whether in public administration or as a parent, the values that I hope to uphold and portray are going to be really similar, and that's being compassionate always, being vigilant. If we have a plan, let's stick with it, and be able to stand up for those in your family or the citizens or patrons that you serve. And then also be flexible, again, and knowing that as a leader you're in that dance and things can change, and you have to be willing and able to deal with that change and be flexible. So those are the immediate parallels I draw, and there's probably a lot more depth to get into, and forgive me for choosing material that you maybe think doesn't directly correlate, but like I say, this has consumed every spare minute of my time is my exciting thoughts and reflections on being a parent, and I do see some strong correlations there as well. Nothing else, hopefully we have a child with a good, strong, democratic voice that keeps us on our toes and keeps us flexible and compassionate and all those things. But thank you again so much for the opportunity to draw these connections and converse and talk a little bit more about parenting and preparing us for the next step, and keep your fingers crossed that we're just days away.
Yeah.
Thank you.